Hi there, welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in this video we're going to learn the 2 to 6 player game Dice Throne, designed by Nate Chatelier and Manny Tremblay and published by Roxley Games, who helped sponsor this video. And I'm going to need 2 hands for this one, so just give me a second. Okay, much better. So it turns out there's a mad king on the throne. I don't know why these kings are always so angry, but they usually are. And this one is looking for a worthy challenger in combat. And it could be you, but first you're going to have to survive the latest tournament that he set up for you and your opponents. So, join me at the table and let's learn how to play. First off, I should mention that what I have here is the battle chest for Dice Throne, and this has all 8 of the heroes from what they are calling the second season of the game. There was also a first season which came boxed like this, containing 6 heroes. And these heroes can be combined together when you play. Now, if you'd rather get into the game more gradually, there are also 4 battle boxes which split the second season heroes into packages of 2 each. No matter what you have, though, this video will teach you the rules. And although you can play with up to 6 players at a time, here we're going to show you the setup for 2 players using Gunslinger and Samurai from the second season. A new feature of the second season characters is that they come in their own individual cases, which makes storing and retrieving their components quite easy. When setting up, you'll find a hero board and double-sided leaflet which you'll place with the side face up that shows these status effect symbols. On these icons, you'll stack the matching tokens. You'll have a health dial that you set to 50 and a combat points dial set to 2. You'll also have a deck of cards which you should shuffle into a face-down pile, drawing 4 as your starting hand. And each character also has their own set of 5 dice, and along with the various symbols found on them, they'll also have sides numbered from 1 to 6. Your leaflet will also have an illustration here that shows the sides of your dice. And now players will each take one of their dice and roll them. Whoever gets the highest value will take the first turn, and you re-roll any ties. Some characters, like Huntress here, will have special setup rules that you'll find on this side of their leaflet, along with further explanations about their special abilities. Each player will also have a general player reference card which you can set nearby that will remind you of the steps of a turn. And that's the setup. In Dice Throne, you'll be battling an opponent using your various skills and abilities, which come from your deck, your dice, and your board, all with the intention of trying to reduce their health to 0. The game is played over a series of turns, starting with the first player and then going back and forth in a 2-player game, or clockwise around the table if you have more players. And on your turn, you'll perform the 8 phases shown here on your player reference card, starting with the Upkeep Phase. Here, you'll check to see if any of your status effects or abilities activate during this time. So let's start by looking at abilities. These are found within the various boxes of your hero board, and there are 4 main types. Passive abilities have this purple background and this figure within the box. These are always active and or available for you to use. This green boxed ability with a shield symbol is a defensive ability and can be used when an opponent attacks you with dice. In the center of your board, you'll find your ultimate ability. This is your most powerful attack. And any other boxes that you might have are your offensive abilities, which are used during a later phase. You should read over all of your character's abilities because you might find one, like Quick Draw here, that says it activates during your Upkeep Phase, and that means it happens right now. And this tells us to gain a Reload status token, which we find on our leaflet here. Anytime you gain a status token, it's placed in the middle of your board, and sometimes these will be beneficial, like this one, but other times your opponent will inflict negative ones on you. And many of these can be applied multiple times to yourself or to others, creating a stack of them. However, you will find a stack limit written with the effect, and each player may not have a number of these tokens greater than that limit. Now, some abilities might allow you to remove a status effect, in which case it's returned to the original hero's leaflet. Some status effects can be spent, usually to provide you with a benefit, and unless otherwise stated, you may spend these at any time during any player's turn, returning them to the appropriate leaflet. Their effects, as explained here, are then resolved immediately and may not be interrupted. Some characters, like the Cursed Pirate, also have unique status effects, which will have their own custom components and rules, which are explained on their leaflet. We won't go over all the various status effects in this video, but each one is explained in the areas beside their tokens. With that understood, let's return to the upkeep phase, where again you'll resolve any status effects and abilities that would resolve at this time. And if you have several, then you choose the order in which to resolve them. And if some damage you while others heal you, combine them all together and apply the final result at the end of this phase. Damage is shown inside of a burst symbol, and healing has a heart icon. When you take damage, you show it by lowering your value on this dial, or you increase it when you're healed. But this value may never be raised higher than 10 points above your starting health, so 60 in this case. Now it's time for the income phase. The first player of the game skips this during their first turn, but normally you'd add 1 combat point to your dial unless you were already at the maximum of 15. Then you also draw 1 card from the top of your deck and add it to your hand. If this deck is ever empty when you would need to draw, just shuffle any you have discarded into a new deck. Now we'll move to the main phase, where you can perform 3 different types of actions as often as you like in any order. One option is to sell any number of cards from your hand, sending them to a face-up discard pile that you'll keep near you. And for each card that you sell like this, you'll gain 1 combat point. Another action you can perform here is to play hero upgrade cards. These will show the main phase symbol, an upward arrow, and a cost which you must pay in combat points by reducing the value shown on your combat dial. The upgrade will have the same name as another ability on your board and will go into that space, making it stronger when you use it later, or providing you with a whole new ability as we see here. Sometimes the same space can have multiple upgrades, and you don't have to do them in order. For example, I could play this level 3 upgrade of Showdown right away by simply paying 3 combat points. But if I already had the level 2 Showdown card here, then I would only have to pay the difference between their 2 costs. So 1 combat point in this case, and then I would stack this one on top. The other thing you can do in this phase is play main phase action cards, which will show the main phase symbol and a star. They also have a cost you must pay in combat points, and then you perform the action listed here, placing the card into your discard pile. Now we come to the offensive roll phase, which is made up of 4 steps. In the first step, you'll roll all of your dice. Then you may re-roll any number of them, and then you can re-roll any of them one more time. After any one of those 3 rolls, you may instead stop and announce the offensive ability you intend to activate, if any. And these are the boxes on your board that are not purple or green. But at most, you can pick only a single one to use. And these will all have requirements, which are the dice shown under their name. For example, to perform Take Cover, I would need 2 blue symbols and 3 yellow ones. Unfortunately, with this roll, I only have the yellow symbols, but not enough of the blue ones. That said, I do satisfy the dice requirements shown here. Blank dice symbols like this represent a small straight, and this means that you must have 4 numbers that go in order without repeating, like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 3, 4, 5, 6. A large straight requires 5 values in a row, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you can satisfy the requirements of an attack, then you can perform it, but during this phase, anyone can also play roll phase action cards. These have an orange border, a star, and a cost. They also show the roll phase symbol here. And once paid, you resolve its effect and then discard it. You can play these on yourself, which might change one of your die values, or an opponent might play them to interfere with your results. There are also instant action cards, and these are similar, but they have a red border and an exclamation mark symbol. And these can be played at any time during any player's phase. Either way, if your dice have been changed, you can then announce a new offensive ability based on your new results, if any are available. Or if you hadn't performed all of your rerolls initially, maybe you'd stopped getting what you wanted sooner, then you can continue to reroll now to try to get what you need. In this case, I satisfy the conditions for both the small straight and the large straight, but again, I can only pick one offensive ability. Assuming you have an ability you can resolve, you'll follow its instructions here, and some may have additional steps that must be followed to determine its full effect. For example, Showdown requires that you and your target both roll 1 die, with the result determining the damage that it can cause. If the ability has any effects that do not require you to pick a target, you resolve those now. For example, Take Cover is made up of 2 steps, gaining an evasive token and dealing 5 damage. The damage would require a target, So that doesn't happen yet, but you do gain the evasive token right away. Before assigning any damage from your attack, if you're in a game with more than 2 players, then you must resolve this targeting roll phase. We only have 2 players in this example, so we can move directly to the defensive roll phase. Now that you have your target, you will resolve any effects from the ability that required a target but were not damage related. For example, this Bounty Hunter offensive attack inflicts 1 bounty status on your opponent. This means you'll take one of those tokens from your leaflet and place it on their hero board. Then, if the ability results in damage that is defendable, which is represented by a black attack burst, the defender may activate their defense ability. This again is found here, and if the hero had more than 1 option to pick from, they would just choose 1 defense ability to resolve. Sometimes the attacker's damage is shown in a red burst, meaning it's undefendable, and in those cases the target opponent will not be able to make a defense roll. However, we'll assume that Showdown is the attack resolving, and after following the instructions here, it has resulted in 7 points of defendable damage. Now the target of the attack rolls the number of dice shown here in their defense ability, which is 3, and then they resolve all non-damage effects that result from this. For example, this says that if neither of these 2 sides are rolled, then this player will gain a shame token. That didn't happen in this case, and there are some other effects that will happen here, but these all relate to damage. So just before these are resolved, there is one last chance for players to spend status effects or play cards. Some will modify an attack, and any damage that they add is considered to be the same type as the original damage dealt. So if Eat Lead was modifying Showdown, it would add additional defendable damage, while if it was modifying Deadeye, it would become additional undefendable damage. In either case, you can only modify an offensive ability that targets an opponent with at least 1 point of damage. Some types of damage may show special keywords other than undefendable, like pure, collateral, or ultimate. And if so, you check this table found in the rulebook, and it will tell you whether or not that type of damage is defendable or avoidable, which just means it can be reduced or prevented in some way by cards or status effects, enhanceable, which means it can be improved with attack modifiers, or has special targeting rules if you have more than 2 players. Ultimate damage is a type that only comes from your ultimate ability. It can be enhanced by you, but not reduced, prevented, avoided, responded to, or interrupted in any other way. And opponents cannot take actions of any kind from the time it is activated until the conclusion of the roll phase itself. The only way to stop an ultimate ability, as mentioned here, is to play a card that would alter the active player's die roll before they can activate it. With that understood, once all damage from the attack and any prevention or healing effects have been calculated, these are all added together and applied at once to their targets. Now, as you can see here, with the right roll, the samurai player, while defending, can cause 1 damage to their opponent for each of these symbols that they get. And they can prevent 1 point of incoming damage for each of these symbols, like we see here. And if they roll any number of this symbol, they'll block a total of 2 damage, but not 2 damage each. Just know that defense rolls only happen in response to being attacked by the active player during their offensive roll phase. Any other damage you might receive because of status effects or other cards that were played at other times will not allow you to roll your defensive ability. With the defensive roll phase complete, you now move to the second main phase, where the active player can perform all the same types of actions they were able to in the first main phase. Selling cards for combat points, playing main phase action cards, and or playing upgrades. Then it's time for the discard phase. Here, if you have more than 6 cards in your hand, you must sell some until you're down to at least 6. But even if you had 6 or fewer, you can still choose to sell more cards as well. But either way, you'll gain 1 combat point for each one of these you discard. With that, the player's turn is over, and then the next player goes. And back and forth, it will continue like this until a player's health is reduced to 0. They have been defeated, and the other player is declared the victor. Now, if all remaining players are simultaneously reduced to 0 at the same time, then the game ends in a draw. As the rules say, dead is dead. You can't be more dead than your opponent. And with that, you're ready to play. But there are 2 other little rules we should just quickly go over before we wrap up. Some heroes come with companions, which are represented by special components. These are immune to cards and abilities that target status effects, and they cannot be removed from play, transferred, or destroyed unless specified in their custom rules, which are described on your hero's leaflet. If players ever want to perform actions at the same time, resolve those actions in clockwise order, beginning with the active player. And while those actions are resolving, any player can interrupt with instant actions or status tokens as usual. Otherwise, that's everything you need to know to play a two-player game. If you want to include more players, you'll just need to resolve the targeting role phase, which I'll leave for you to discover on your own, and which you can read here if you'd like to pause the video. There are also rules for team and King of the Hill styled games described in the rulebook and found on the Dice Throne website, which I'll leave for you to investigate. If you have any other questions, though, about anything else that you saw here, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. Keep in mind, I won't be able to help with questions related to specific characters and their abilities and how they interact with each other, as that would just be a bit too much for me to handle as one person. That said, you could post those questions over on the games page at Board Game Geek, and there you'll find forums for discussion, pictures, other videos, and lots more. And if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing, liking, and clicking that little bell icon so you get notifications each time we put up a new video. But until the next episode, thanks for watching.